How to accept difficulties, own fate, and limitations.
Om Namaste. What we commonly refer to as difficulties, limitations, and challenges that we encounter. This is nothing more than our interpretation. This is our personal assessment of the various events in life, of some certain energies. And we identified them as difficulties, as limitations. For example, there is a dog. She is standing in the middle of the street. The dog is medium-sized, and a cat comes out into the street. For him, the dog is a very big difficulty, and he won't go where the dog is. He is afraid of her. He has defined her as a difficulty in his life, a real danger. But there is a person who comes out. Moreover, he is driving a car. He doesn't think about the dog at all. He is just going about his business. He has no fear, no problems. Because the power of his consciousness and his energy are incomparable to the dog. He doesn't define her as a difficulty. That's why it's important to understand that our difficulties, our limitations are connected to the fact that our consciousness is narrow or weak, and we shouldn't fight the difficulties themselves. Maybe you won't even be able to fix them in this lifetime if they are given to you by fate, by karma. But it's important to focus on expanding the development of your consciousness, on cultivating your energy, on achieving a higher energetic state, a stronger consciousness, and to concentrate fully on this. And when you expand your consciousness or increase your energy, you'll look at your old difficulties and simply smile. These difficulties will stop being something important or significant to you. Perhaps you will encounter new, more global challenges that you choose yourself, but those old difficulties will disappear because the karmic task those difficulties imposed on you will have been fulfilled. Perhaps a new karmic task will open up before you, but this will be an act of your free choice, not an act of being forced into karma. There is a saying, for someone the soup is too thin, while for others the diamonds are too small. Every soul has its own life tasks for each period of life. And in accordance with these life tasks, both abilities and difficulties are given. But still, how exactly to deal with them, how to ignore, or how to accept them? The first thing you can do is learn to contemplate, to observe the difficulties that arise with an independent mind, like a viewer in a movie theater. Become a witness, become an observer, become a spectator. This is where yogis begin. Difficulties have a strong impact on you and leave a strong impression only as long as you, by interacting with them, you begin to identify with them, and so you lack observation. You experience them, but you do not observe them. And as long as you are living through difficulties, there is no chance to accept them or somehow get rid of them psychologically, because they are a part of you. But when you start to observe them, a certain distance arises between you and the difficulties. A barrier, a certain distance, a kind of transparent medium. And you see that the difficulties, even if they affect me, are separate. And I, as Sakshi, the witnessing consciousness observing them, am separate. When you can observe what is happening to you like a viewer in a movie theater without identifying with it, that is the first step. In the Siddhas tradition, there are various little known types of yoga, one of which is Drashta Yoga. In Drashta Yoga, yogis learn to observe clouds, trees, birds, the sound of some noise, the stream. They learn to take on this witnessing position. I am the witness, but I am not a participant in any event. I am a spectator. And so, to be a witness, to be a spectator, is the destiny of every yogi. And we start by learning to witness events, to note them, to notice them, but not to get involved, not to get caught up in them, not to react or experience them the way ordinary people do. The practice of witnessing, of observing instead of getting involved, is the first step. As you continue this witnessing and observing, you will learn to note that something is happening, but not to make judgments or evaluations, not to reflect on whether it is good or bad. You are like a dash cam. You note this is happening. Now this is happening. The stream of events is constantly changing. Some events are bad, some are good, some limit you. And some, on the contrary, somehow enhance your possibilities. But you don't get involved, you don't reflect, you simply note it. I observe this, it is happening, but I am separate from what is happening. As a result, the habit of abiding in witnessing awareness is formed. Such witnessing awareness is like a pearl, like a diamond. It should be valued and given the highest grade. Because from here, the first step toward enlightenment is taken. The habit of being aware, of witnessing the difficulties that arise in awareness, allows you to accept them. It allows you to live with various difficulties without reflection, without anger, without rage, without self-deprecation, without any lowered self-esteem. You simply live alongside difficulties, just as an animal trainer lives alongside wild animals. He knows how to keep his distance from the animals, how to conduct himself. And any animal trainer knows that you have to conduct yourself properly with animals, because if they don't see an imperative master in the trainer, if they don't perceive him as an authority, there will be no training, and it's unclear how the act will go at all. That's why they keep a certain distance and maintain a certain attitude. It's the same way with difficulties, exactly the same. If we get drawn into them, they capture us, they carry us away. If we keep our distance from them, they don't capture or carry us away as much, and the process becomes manageable. But distancing ourselves and observing difficulties is only the first step. The point is that from the state of an observer, we can control reality, and we can change the situation to a more favorable one without getting involved in it. And we continue to remain observers. And here we come to a rather paradoxical conclusion, that the world outside is a manifestation of consciousness. That what happens in the world depends on how we are aware of ourselves, how we feel psychologically. And perhaps any difficulties that arise in our lives are a consequence of the fact that we were not aware of ourselves correctly, we did not feel ourselves psychologically in the right way. Perhaps we were dwelling in delusions, in envy, in anger, in jealousy, in resentment. And this clouded state of mind led to us experiencing difficulties, maybe in communicating with others, or perhaps in illness somewhere in some part of the body. And all of this allows us to discover the observing consciousness. Then comes the second step. From a state of observation, we change our attitude, we change our mindset. For example, we establish ourselves in a state of infinite awareness, like space. The witnessing consciousness allows us to discover such a subtle layer of awareness within ourselves. And nothing prevents this layer of awareness from being expanded, from becoming cosmic. And when we become expanded, cosmic, nothing prevents us from looking at our difficulties from above, from the height of cosmic flight, for example, from the scale of the solar system, or even from the scale of a galaxy, or even from the scale of several hundred or thousand galaxies. From such a level of scale, such a level of expansive vision, the difficulties that overwhelm us seem laughable. They are not difficulties. We can easily accept them and can even handle them. And you gain a multitude of opportunities. This freely flowing, witnessing awareness that has opened up to you distances you from any experiences. And this awareness, which is non-reflective and has nothing to do with reflective consciousness, opens up new possibilities for you to manage reality. If you deeply abide in this consciousness, you can easily create a different life scenario for yourself, an alternative version of life where these difficulties do not exist. And it will come true, it will materialize, it will manifest, provided that you remain deeply enough in such a witnessing consciousness. Therefore, learn to observe, learn to be a witness, learn to maintain the state of a witness in any situation. Immerse yourself ever more deeply in witnessing awareness. Let witnessing awareness become your destiny. And there are many methods for this. Contemplation of the tip of the nose, Nasikagradrishti. Contemplation of the vastness of space. And the practice of Bhuchari Mudra. Abiding in a state of contemplation with an unfocused gaze, Chanchari Mudra. Or in a deepened contemplation, Shambhavi Mudra. Practices of mindfulness regarding bodily actions, inner sensations, and experiences in the mind. All of these are methods for cultivating witnessing awareness. And no matter which method you practice, once you have cultivated witnessing awareness within yourself, you will find that the difficulties that arise in life can be easily handled and even transformed. But you no longer have the desire to struggle with difficulties or suffer from them. This happens naturally, because you have learned not to get involved in experiences, but to be Sakshi, a separate, independent witness. From this moment, the process begins of Jnana Yoga. Jnana Yoga means I am able to witness reality. I am able to remain in witnessing awareness. And my awareness is like a screen. And the events that happen around me are like images on the screen. I see the images, but I can no longer be deceived. I understand the illusory nature of the events that occur. I know that behind all of them is the screen. And I always see this screen. It's like a mirror in its reflection. Reflections appear in the mirror, but you remain in the state of the mirror, and the reflections do not affect you. Usually, we all pay a lot of attention to reflections and miss the opportunity to see the mirror itself. The witnessing consciousness reminds us of what happens as a reflection, but what truly exists is the mirror. Being in the state of the mirror does not mean not living life or rejecting impressions, emotions, feelings, or love, for example. Not at all. Being in the profound state of the mirror truly means that we begin to deeply understand the fundamental root of all emotions, our life experiences, and indeed all sensory experiences. And when we live in this root, any experience is recognized by us as a play of energy, empty and illusory, and all experiences are reduced to something singular, to something unified. And this unified one is very difficult to define. It is indescribable, impossible to express in words or intellectual theories. But we simply feel from within that this one is beautiful, it is gracious, it is the profound goodness within us, and that we have discovered some treasure of incredible power and value. And then all external experiences, whether good or bad, we unfailingly reduce to this one and can recognize this oneness. And as we deeply explore this one as the very source of our true consciousness, the witnessing consciousness, we discover that this is indeed God, that it is such an utterly indescribable, incredible, precious, invaluable treasure. It turns out to be the entire eternal consciousness pervading all living beings, and not only us. And when we direct our mind toward it, we feel happiness, joy, purity, wholeness, harmony, and beauty. This is also called grace, Anugraha Shakti. And we also feel the power that comes from this source. This is called Shaktipatha. And then we feel that this unified whole consciousness of God is the only thing that truly matters to the soul. And that difficulties are not frightening when we have found God within our soul. And sometimes we can even be grateful for difficulties, because it is thanks to them that we have found God. Even after experiencing just a little hardship, we have found something incredible, something we never even expected. We have found a magical treasure. We have found the greatest jewel. Many believers came to God after going through difficulties, and they understand that this was part of their path to God. If it weren't for those difficulties, they would never have paid attention to God. That is why they are grateful for the hardships. It's like when someone meets a wolf in the forest, gets scared, and runs away. But as he was running, he tripped and fell into some kind of ravine. And in that ravine, he accidentally saw a huge treasure full of jewels, or even a diamond and gold-bearing vein that would provide for him for his entire life. The wolf left, but the treasure remained. And he thought, this event, surely that wolf was necessary. It was so that I would end up here and discover this. After all, I would never have found it on my own. That's how our attitude toward difficulties changes. And when we live in God, in God's grace, acceptance of difficulties arises naturally. We deal with them simply by opening ourselves to divine grace, simply by continuously abiding in divine love. We laugh at difficulties. Yes, they're not easy. Sometimes it's hard for our body to endure them, but for the soul, it's easy to bear difficulties when it is in God's grace, when it is in divine love. Just like in the story about that holy fool who lived in the village, always walked around, ran and prayed to God. Everyone thought he was crazy. And then a war broke out in the village, and famine. It hadn't started yet, but many began to say that there would be war, there would be famine. But this village fool was rejoicing. They asked him, "Why are you so happy?" He said, "There's a chance to suffer even for God. That I was very devoted to God, but didn't know if my soul would falter when suffering would come. And now I see that my soul is not troubled, but rather rejoices and sees this as a divine trial, as a form of blissful grace." This holy fool understood the deepest meaning. When there is divine grace and love for God, difficulties become insignificant. Difficulties are easily accepted, they are easily endured and cause no problems, because the soul has completely surrendered itself to God. Om Namaste.